Yeah. Good afternoon.
Já começou? Bom, boa tarde.
Good afternoon, and welcome everyone. Welcome everyone that was able to be here, and they got a boat because it's raining so much, right? The only way to get here is by boat or jet ski or something. And thank you for those who are with us through the transmission. Thank you for having accepted our invitation for the launching of the first season of courses of Jewish Academy for 2024. We have a very intense program for this year, and we hope to have you with us from beginning to end. We we will have 5 courses being presented here today and different topics. And we were thinking, what was the connection between these 5 topics? Is the journey of knowledge, of wisdom. This knowledge, this wisdom goes from the oldest texts, such as the Tanakh, getting to the Talmud and Jewish philosophy, going through literature, and in this journey through the library of Jewish knowledge is what we're inviting you today. Here with me, I have my friend Rabbi Ruben Sternchen. He is a philosopher. He is also a rabbi at SIPI and the rector of the Jewish Academy. And before I introduce the other teachers that are here with us online, from each one are from their own home. So first, before I do that, I want to thank some people who made this meeting possible. This meeting and this journey as a whole. So first, I would like to thank the CP leadership on the person of Dr. Laura Feldman and the president of the CP Council, the person who conceived the Jewish Academy, Professor Mario Fleck, and the other professors of CIPI who help us bring these events to life in a collaborative manner. We have Nathan in the technical area helping with the transmission, and we have Josiel helping with the audio, and Samuel preparing the space and the logistics so that we could all gather here together. Marco and his team as well, creating the conditions for us to be safe here, and Mel and her team that works on the communication and that brought the news to you about this meeting, and the whole team of Academia Judaica, Fernanda, Alessandra, Cecilia, Leo, they prepared all the audio visual material, the communication, the invitation, everything that they do to organize the logistics of this event, and also Mrs. Patricia Mamedi, who is our interpreter here with us today. In our journey, we have 2 courses with professors from other countries, and Patricia will be our interpreter in all these classes, not only today, but during the classes as well. And I would also like to thank the 2 professors, star professors that are here with us today, that accepted, and they were so excited to be here with us today before the beginning of the classes, right? In order to let us know, to give us a little spoiler about their courses. Is it a spoiler? I don't know if I would call it a spoiler, or I don't know, maybe try it. Yes, it's not a spoiler. It's not really a spoiler, but we have to add some marketing here. We have to say why it's important to take these courses, right? All right. So we are going to launch this challenge for everyone here to decide what courses do you want to take. Well, I believe some people will take more than one course, maybe even all of them. Oh, I wish, I really wish that you guys cannot even choose. I want you guys to participate in all the courses. That would be the greatest joy. Well, people who are here with us online, I have already greeted everyone. And after this huge preamble, I will now talk about our courses. And we have here with us from the wonderful city of Rio de Janeiro, we have the karaoke American Rabbi Joseph Edelheit, who has built a 50-year rabbinate career. He built a huge trajectory of activism, and after paving this road for so many people who followed in his footsteps, he came to build bridges here in Brazil. He has been helping as an itinerant rabbi in smaller communities, trying to build the Latin American Jewishness, bringing his experience from abroad and sharing his knowledge. He has written a book about the topic of the course that he is going to give. And now he is here in Brazil. On the coast of São Paulo, we have Luciana Zaterka. She is graduated in chemistry and philosophy, and I like to say that she graduated in chemistry first because chemistry and philosophy, right? It's a fascinating relationship. She can bring the sciences and the philosophy and knowledge. Her academic journey is amazing, and that's I think that's why she has such a unique construction of thought, right? Using scientific method as well. Okay, let me add something, Kalita. I'm always surprised with the fact that she bring chemistry and philosophy. If it was mathematics and philosophy, logics and philosophy, even biology with philosophy, I think we could understand more or less what would be the links, right? But chemistry, that astounds me. Just Luciana can do that. Yes, and she has chosen very carefully the philosophers that she wants to work with, right? Because it is such a unique compound hours ago, and she said that her battery, her phone was going to die, and she has nowhere to go because the whole region where she lives is in a blackout. But if she can join us at some point, we will take those minutes, those few minutes, so that she can participate as well. And finally, Professor Daniel Polissar, who is North American and Israeli. And today he's not going to be here with us because he's in a mission in Israel working with the challenge that is happening there. And he knows about our meeting here today and what we are doing. So he knows that we are going to spread his knowledge in the Portuguese language as well. So it's he's very proud, and for we are very proud to have access to such qualified knowledge as the one he brings to the table. So today, now we are going to I talked a lot, right? So let's get down to business and listen to our professors and with our colleagues online. Let's start with who is here present, right? So let's start with our dear Rabbi Ruben. He will start with two topics, and I will ask him a question that will later be applied to all of you, okay? So let's start. First question, Professor Ruben. It's a question in two parts. Why? Why do I, or each one of us, I'm saying I, but it applies to each one of us. Why each one of us should register for your course? Why should I want your course? And why this topic is relevant today, so that I can find some time in my schedule for the next month. Why should I study this topic? In addition to studying this topic, why should I study this topic with you in particular? Okay, so you asked me three questions, and deep down inside, you have three questions. So, first of all, why should you take this course? Well, Jewish wisdom is known for its ancestrality, for how old it is, for its originality in many cases, by the survival, right, and its relevance. because several old peoples like the Phoenicians and the Hittites, we know very little about them. We cannot connect very well. However, Jewish philosophy, Jewish knowledge is alive. It's here. It's being practiced here today. Fortunately or unfortunately, is every day on media everywhere. So at the same time, our knowledge is ancestral and relevant to the present day, right? And this is a fact. When we talk about knowledge, about wisdom, what are we talking about? Is is this having knowledge that nobody else has? Is it knowing the explanation of things that nobody else has? Well, I think that in the case of Judaism, it's a very specific knowledge. So some knowledge are specific, but I believe in case of Judaism, it's not exactly. It's very diverse. Judaism is diverse, Jewish knowledge is diverse, even if it doesn't have a specific posture on a subject. For example, mathematics. I may not have a position in mathematics, but for most of the topics in life, Jewish wisdom applies. So, answering your question, Jewish wisdom is both ancient and relevant to the present day because it deals with several topics that we still have today. And I talked about some of these topics, for example, justice, politics, administration of power, relationships, ethics, knowledge, and how to learn, how to transform knowledge in wisdom. Except this last point, all the other points, you could say, oh, they're very specific. Politics, justice. I'm not a judge, so why should I study justice? I'm not a politician, so why should I study politics? You know, sometimes I don't have power, so why should I study power? So I finished the school. Why should I keep learning? Well, to those arguments, I say we all judge all the time. Either we are aware of it, we may be aware of it or not. Is this considered good or bad? But judgment is inherent. It's how we judge the reality and the people and things that happen and the things we read and we ourselves. Evaluate and judge are very similar. So at some point, we always find ourselves in the place of the judge, and sometimes as the defendant, and sometimes as the witness, and sometimes as the public defender. We do that all the times. Porque Avot has several parts talking about the administration of justice, the concept of justice, the limitations of human justice. So at the same time, it alerts us to what we can do and what we cannot do and the how. It's the why and the how. The same applies to the topic of power. We may think, oh, just politicians have power or big entrepreneurs. No, we all have power. Even the little cat running around your home has power. Sometimes you don't see when they do things. Sometimes your cat refuses something. Sometimes you run out of cat food and you have to change your schedule to go buy cat food. So you adjust your position to negotiate with your little cat running around your house. Now, what about your children? Any age. And what about your grandchildren? What about your neighbors? What about your own story? You are the son or the grandson of somebody. You are the neighbor of somebody. You are the founder of somebody. So there's people who exercise power over you, and there's you exercising power over other people. You may be aware of it or not. and you can use it in a better or worse way. You can be destructive or constructive. And here, ethics comes in. Ethics is part of our lives, every single minute of our lives, not only in labor relations or what we do with people that are over there. No, ethics is the guiding principle of Perkevot. I will say just one sentence. Jewish wisdom encompasses all these topics and checks how it's applied to the relationships between people and the people with themselves and with people who have died or future people. So it's the relation with your friends, your foes, and the people that you don't know. These topics are paramount in the Jewish thought and in Jewish action as well. So far, oh, I didn't mention about learning. We learn all the time. It's not just, we don't need to be professors to understand that what we learn in school is not the most important in life. The great educators such as Paulo Freire here in Brazil and many others around the world, they talk about the attitude of being available for learning all the time. That's the key to being alive. The difference between alive or dead is not whether your body is working or not, is if you are learning and growing all the time or if you're static. About all these topics, Judaism has a lot to talk about: justice, politics and powers, relationships, ethics, knowledge, and how to learn. And Perikei Avot is the summary of all of this. It's a very clear condensation, very direct and very practical of all these topics. Why do this with me? Why study this with me? Because I chose within Perkei Avot a text that is what 2,000 years old. I chose these topics and I organized them in a particular way because Perkei Avot is a series of sentences, right? They're not divided by topics, and each one of them, sorry, it's divided in 5 topics that have several sentences about them, and sometimes they mesh. And what we're going to do in the course is a summary of the summary, so to speak. You know, we're going to try to extract the main ideas of the Perkei Avot, which collected already this summary of Jewish knowledge. I built this and I'm proud to offer this to all of you. Well, guys, as you can see, we have sent a double challenge to our professors here, which is within this literature that talks about so many things, and he was able to organize that in a unique way. We will not find anywhere else a proposal of studying Perkei Avot similar to this one. So I think it's something that I wanted to add to what you said. Now, guys, you don't be shy. I will pass the question on to you. So don't be shy. Tell us, why are you the best for giving this particular course? Now, Professor Luciana Zaterka, please, I would like to repeat the same questions for you about your course, about Zygmunt Bauman and the uncertainties of the liquid world, this world of fragile relations. Rabbi Reuben talked about ethics in human relations from Perkei Avot perspective, and now Bauman is going to tell us how these relationships have been built and what can we do with it now. First observing what these relationships look like, and then how can we have meaningful relationships in face of such an ephemeral reality such as the one that we have today. Professor Luciana, the floor is yours. Well, First of all, guys, I would like to thank very much Rabbi Kalita, Rabbi Ruben, Rabbi Joseph. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Last year, I wasn't able to be here, and I really missed it. There's something really wrong with me. I miss Academia Judaica. I'm very glad to be back here. I have prepared this course with my utmost effort. It had been a long time since I studied Bauman so deeply, and I believe that he was one of the thinkers that deserve the title of classic, although he's still contemporary. Okay, but in the most precise classic in sense of connected to wisdom, the fact that he posed questions that are very current. He calls our time as liquid modernity, creating a space between other sociologists that say that we live in postmodernity. He argues in a brilliant way uh, and very clear, actually. He operates with metaphors. So he talks about the liquid, the solid, the travel, the peregrination, and all these words, they they bring their books uh, closer to our daily life. Okay, so it's interesting to dive in this world of metaphors. And Bauman, using the term liquid modernity, he can show the counter. Showing what happened in modernity with Spinoza, Descartes, and the Enlightenment, the age of reason, right? The age that he says we had it all, right? Everything concrete and solid. And there was an interview in which he said that Sartre, the existentialist, could say that we may have a life project. For example, when we think, oh, I will study here and then I will work there and I will get married, I will live in Rio, I will be a rabbi. We idealize a life. But today, that's impossible. This solidity, this forecast, this linearity of life has been broken in the current times. If we think, for example, that today we don't have, it's interesting. He uses organic metaphors. She said we don't have the face to face conflict, the body to body combat, the tooth for tooth justice, an eye for an eye, right? Why? Because we know that today our experiences are intermediated by devices such as cell phones or computers and social media. So, what do we do? What is the organic metaphors? They disappear. And the volatility, the disposability, they are part of, because I know that in an hour I will turn off the computer and I will forget all of you. I will do something else. I don't know, go to the beach or read a book or watch the Australian Open and spend some time with my daughter. So today, what he emphasizes is that we have not a linear temporal conception or circular like the Greeks had. Today we have fragments of life. Sometimes we are on, sometimes we are off. So, how does that leave our relationships? In the past, we had a community. The three of you, for example, know even better than me the existential meaning of a community where we can smell, touch, feel. Sometimes it's hard to enter, to join a community. Sometimes it's hard to leave a community. The community, according to Bauman, has been replaced by the notion of network. And network is very fragile, it's instantaneous. Our relationships are mostly disposable. They are like pocket relations that we use and abuse, and then it's over. Now, from my point of view, All of that you can get in any course about Bauman. However, Luciana, me, brought two different points of view to make this course of Jewish Academy unique. The first is a topic that Rabbi Reuben loves, which is ethics. What happens to us, to our moral responsibility in face of the fragility of relations? What is human morality and human ethics when many times I don't even know who I am? Sometimes I don't know who started a certain anti-Semitic defamation campaign, for example. There is a morality that sometimes we cannot grasp. So for me, Luciana, I want to discuss morality. I want to discuss ethics and see how our deepest values face this volatile, fluid world, where it seems that the dimensions of the human existential values are fragile. And second, I would like to go back to Bauman's life. I spent the last 40 days studying his life and his wife's life, Janina Bauman. I don't know if you know, but she was incarcerated during the Holocaust. She was in the Warsaw ghetto. Bauman was an apatrid, which means he ran away from Poland. He ran away to the USSR. There he was part of the Communist Party, and a symbol. Being Jewish and being communist in a certain time, it's something that was imprinted in his journey, be it in Israel at first and then later in England. From my point of view, he is a sociologist that is an outsider because of his life and because of the woman he married as well. He builds a sociology and a philosophy that is extremely practical. He is thinking about the real dimension of human rights, human rights, of the humanistic side of the left at this time. And he is different from what we are used to looking at or thinking at. Be from the ethical moral point of view, perspective, or the identity of who Bauman was, or from the perspective of this something new that is the liquid modernity, that and this course will be given by a chemistry professor, right? I'm a chemist. And I will talk about volatility and solidity and fluidity to this huge philosophy. He talks about globalization, parasite capitalism. He talks about the Holocaust. He talks about ethics. So we are going to try and look at all of that from the point of view of the sociology and philosophy of Bauman. So I would like you to share these 4 meetings with us. Wow. I was remembering the chemistry classes that I had. My father was also a chemist, okay? And so when she started talking about the relation of all of this with the solids and the liquids and the volatility, I remembered myself in the lab with my father. Yes, I was actually, if I may add something, uh, I was thinking about that. I did not expect that she would bring his biography, right, when preparing the course. That's interesting because the his life intersects with the topics that he proposes in his academic work, and so I think that is something unique. It's not how we usually study in the universities, right? We don't dive in the personal life of these people, but that's we have an interesting people's life in your lives, right? So we try to study the theory enmeshed in the lives of the people who propose it. This is new. This is an uncommon sociologist, right? And his personal identity is very Jewish, right? It's full of this condition of the Jew that travels and goes from one place to the other and is expelled from here and is rebuilt over there. So it's always a something, rebuilt, restart. So it's very interesting bringing the journey of his personal journey of his life as Bauman as a person, the biography of Bauman and his wife, and how it reflects in the theories and the proposals. So that's what makes it a unique course from the Jewish Academy, from Academia Judaica. And actually, next I will ask Rabino Joseph, but there's one thing that I would like to point out. This wandering of our people, this ephemerity is part of our history, the essence, this thousands-year-old essence that's part of the contemporary reality. But our experience as a people, based on that, Bauman was able to, I don't know, be in the vanguard. Yes, exactly. In our case, the fugacity is not just contemporary, right? It's ancestral. Exactly. He looks back, and by looking back, he becomes the vanguard. And this is what we're doing. We are looking at the sources and to try and see how we respond to reality today. Now, Joseph does something similar, but he goes even further back in the past to come back to yes, he goes back to the very origins, right? Tanakh. He goes back to the Tanakh. Okay, no, let's listen to him. Yes, he pulls the archetypes from the Tanakh. Yes, you can. We're just introducing you, Joseph. But okay, I will let you speak. Okay, you were the one who is going to tell us. So he's going to talk to us about what's missing, right? Please, the floor is yours, Joseph.
I am delighted to share in this very important Academia Judaica. You have created a significant resource for not just Brazil, but for the Jewish world about what we must each do to keep learning. I'd like to share the last 50 years of my rabbinic journey with you. I do it by looking once again at 6 biblical characters, figures that most of us would claim we already understand. Abraham and Rachel, the first patriarch and the last matriarch. Miriam and Moses, not merely siblings, but essential to the origin of who we became. And then David and Esther, the king and the queen, 2 figures who develop our values of power. I happened to find 40 years ago, when teaching and studying, that Abraham, Moses, and David were each given a title, Avinu, Rabbeinu, Hamelech. Each was defined in rabbinic literature as the paradigm, the progenitor, the ultimate master or teacher, and the king, from whom we will ultimately derive a messianic promise. Over the years, I came to understand that though each was paradigmatic, each was missing one of the defining elements of Judaism: God, Torah, and Israel. Abraham precedes the giving of Torah. He knows God and knows the promise of both the people and the land. Moses knows God intimately, gives Torah, but is denied access to the land. David has more land and more people. He develops through a prophet, Nathan, ethics in the biblical format, learning Torah in a new way. But he is denied God. Told bluntly, you cannot build the holy temple, you have blood on your hands. How do we have three paradigmatic biblical figures all missing something? Over the years, I added women: Rachel, Miriam, and Esther. And as I completed my rabbinate and retired here in Brazil to study and write, I wrote a book, What Am I Missing? Questions about Being Human. And then that book was translated into Brazilian Portuguese. I'm going to use this book to develop the core of the course. It is a course about questions. It is a course about pluralism, dialogue, uncertainty, imperfection. I've been a rabbi 50 years, 30 years in congregations, 15 years teaching at a state university. My doctorate is in Christian theology from the University of Chicago Divinity School, where I was honored in 2021 as the Alumnus of the Year for the work I had done in interfaith dialogue and anti-Semitism. I like the word journey that Rabbi Kalita offered us at the beginning. I don't know that I'm the best teacher, but I am the unique teacher for my course because it's my journey, and I want to share my journey with you. How have I, both as a rabbi, as a Jew, a life partner, a parent, a grandparent, a friend, how have I taken my tradition and translated it into the world in which I live? During my journey, I worked at President Clinton's White House on his HIV/AIDS Advisory Council. I was a chaplain at a maximum security state prison. I have served with interfaith leaders in leading communities into dialogue that change lives. I helped remove 5 swastikas from a cathedral in St. Cloud, Minnesota. My friends, we live at a time where often we no longer know what question to ask. In fact, sometimes we're told there are no more questions to ask. I invite you to share these 4 sessions with me. I'm going to use the book. The book is available on amazon.com.br, but you don't have to read it to be in the conversation. My goal is to help you find the questions about your life. In the same way, I have found questions about my life. I shared them in order to create new conversations. I am humbled and honored to be invited to bring this conversation to Academia Judaica at SIP. I am honored to share with the other scholars that have been gathered. In the 4 sessions, we will not just study these older biblical figures. We will add our lives into the text and then ask the questions that have the text guide us. I hope to achieve someone saying, you know, he really was the best teacher for this class.
Ai, muito
Muito bom,
obrigada,
muito bom.
Joseph.
Maravilhoso.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joseph. Oh, that was great. Well, guys, I have to say, the last time that I was in Rio, I visited Rabbi Joseph, and I had the honor of having been invited for lunch in Rosh Hashanah. And he showed me in his a picture on his wall. It's like, with Bill Clinton, that sent him a letter congratulating him on the 50 years of rabbinate and talking about his trajectory. So that's such a unique story. And since we're talking about people's journeys, people's trajectories, both the characters that he selected from the Tanakh and our lives, right? Enmesh them together and see that translated in our own journey. That is a single experience and such an enriching one that I don't think you guys can miss anything. Well, Leslie is not here, so maybe we can talk a little bit more, right? Yes, we have these two courses here, right, that I think we can extend on. Yes, all right. So, Professor, let's talk about Professor Leslie, just to give an overview of her course. It's a course about monsters. Why monsters, Ruben? Why did we choose this word? Well, the first question I think maybe should be why writers and script writers they they always have monsters, right? I'm not a person that likes horror movies. I don't like monsters, okay? Some people love horror movies. I don't like. But at this point in my life, I only want to watch movies where I can learn something, okay? That's it. So, the horror films that they don't appeal to me. However, Leslie has convinced us that observing how monsters are portrayed in written works from very, very famous writers, authors who have a philosophical, psychological, or sociological approach, such as Jorge Luis Borges, and also others in Jewish literature as well, how they approach monsters, right? These are not superficial writers. They are not like something you read as a pastime. So the question is, why such serious sources of literature are dedicated to monsters? I don't want to give any spoilers, right? Professor Leslie is a wonderful teacher. She will be able to show how these monsters are developed and what are the human traits that they have, and why these writers, what were they doing? What were they denouncing through these monsters? How they were shaking our humanity and proposing alternatives. I don't know if any of you, well, since we're talking about metaphors from movies, did you guys watch Argentinians are good in making movies, right? Sometimes if there is one thing that they know how to do, is good cinema. And one of them is Relatos Selvagens. I don't know if you guys have seen it. In English, it would be wild testimonies, more or less, wild stories. And anyway, there is no summary for that movie, but that movie tries to show us how humans can become wild over something very little. Sometimes a small reaction creates a chain reaction and things snowball into something huge, and sometimes you can even justify that, right? And it becomes something out of control. So these characters, they don't even know who they are anymore. They don't know what their humanity is anymore. So this movie shows how sometimes even something like, for example, you were angry for a justified reason. You were offended and it was a fair, it was, justified that you were angry in that situation. But how can it escalate? How it can escalate to an inadmissible proportion. So the potential of monstrosity is in each one of us. The worst monstrosities were carried out by humans, not animals. So it's important to recognize, to acknowledge our monstrous potential. There are characters that are not monsters, but show other human characteristics. For example, strength, knowledge, that are several dimensions, right? And all of that is a mirror to us. And in Jewish literature, we have that. We take characters that might be monstrous and how they come back in literature. The same, she took, for example, in the first course, she took some parts of the Bible and saw how it was rewritten in vernacular Latin American literature, right? For example, Machado de Assis writes about Esau and Jacob, right? So she takes these characters that well, in Jewish history, Jewish people has always been portrayed as monstrous figures. Yes, there is that aspect as well, the prejudice and the fear, right? So what is it to be feared in these beings that are placed in this category of monster, that tries to bring us away, or to something that they bring, that they dominate, and that instills fear. I don't know. What she's inviting us to think is to come closer with no fear of these monsters, the so-called monsters. And how does literature do that in a beautiful way? And how these characters are placed on the stage, how they bring these characters to light. Well, we also have Belisario's course, right? Which is, Beyond Herzl. This course is, I don't know if you guys took the first part of this course. We had actually, I don't know if you guys know, we have a course from an expert in Herzl from the Tikva Foundation. It's a very important course, very well produced by the Tikva Foundation that has a partnership with SIPI. In addition to that, the foundation, Tikva Foundation, and this course in specific, talks about one of the most important topics for us right now, which is Israel. What is the bond between the people of Israel and the land of Israel? What have we reached? What have we achieved? And what are the justifications? How did we get what we got? And what was planned? What happened? What can we learn with what we have conquered and what we still have to do, with what we wanted and what we actually accomplished? So Pelizar has some very interesting sentences. He has some very interesting developments as well, a thesis that shows how the particular becomes universal, and how something that was built for one specific goal can have repercussions in positive contributions in this moment that we are exposed to the contrary. The discourse is exactly the contrary, saying that a country created by refugees is a colonial power, right? A colonialist power. The Declaration of Independence of Israel is we extend our hands to our Arab neighbors. And now we are portrayed in the media as people who want to kill everyone, even when we are the victims. So where does that ethos come from? Where do those values come from? The values that created somehow the Zionist education, the ethics, and the society. How does Judaism connect with all of that? And in my opinion, this is paramount in the moment that we are living through. The topics that we don't know, for polemics, for topics that we need to study again. So for these three reasons, Polisario is not here, but I recommend that you join this course. Give yourself the opportunity to revisit Israel and Zionism in the past, in the present, and in the future. Well, based on what Rabino Ruben said, I have one last question, right, for all the professors here present. So I will pose the question and answer about Kobesar's course, and then I will pass the floor to everyone, but especially because we have very little time. Anyway, Rabbi Ruben has a name tag on his heart saying that our hearts have been kidnapped in Gaza. This is our reality today. So my question to everyone, I will answer based on Polisar, but I will give you some time to think about it, okay, guys, because I didn't discuss this before. So in face of this current situation, our attention is fully focused on what's happening in Israel. Several hours of our day we have dedicated specifically to be able to follow what's happening over there, and the families, even if we are distant, but at least emotionally and spiritually we are in contact. Our reality changed after October 7th. And everything that we are going to study, everything that we are going to learn has to somehow apply. We are looking for something that helps us understand reality. So my question to Polisar would be to Polisar, but now I'm going to answer it myself, is how does your course help us to understand the reality post-October 7th? And in the case of Polisar course in specific, I considered that it is the basis for understanding where we have come to and how did we get here. How did this happen? Because he starts this course way beyond Herzl. Why beyond Herzl? Because Herzl created the philosophical background about what would be entering the land of Israel. But entering the land of Israel is, the course has 7 classes in which he is going to describe from the Declaration of Independence to today. And today, I mean pre-October 7th. But some people may say, but the reality post-October 7th changed. But we cannot understand the meanders and the complexity that has been developed through this journey. So I don't know, it's kind of a condensation of a lot of information that we have received from several sources. So his course condenses this, and it was chosen for this moment. It was chosen on purpose. We looked for a course that could help us to understand what's happening right now. This is the Polisar course. Now I will pass the floor to Professor Luciana Zaterka. She probably has something to tell us about this reality that has destabilized us so much. What can your course help us to understand? How can your course help us to understand and to face and have better tools to deal with the reality that we're undergoing? Kelita, I would like to answer from two complementary perspectives. The first is the emphasis that I give to the identity of Bauman and his family. The history of his wife is amazing. And one thing that called my attention, and it was not clear to me until then, is why recently in the Second World War, you had Jewish French people, you have German German Jewish, but you couldn't have a Polish Jew. This is amazing. Bauman talks about that. Either you were Polish or you were Jewish, and then you were supposed to leave because there was no place for you there. So his life shows during a period, of course, the period that he spent in Poland, he talks about this identity. He talks about it. He wanted to be Polish. He fought against fascism and Nazism, but he wanted to be a Jewish Pole. So, and this was impossible. I will not give any spoilers, right? But we will be able to delve on that during the course. And again, he uses some very interesting metaphors. Let me ask you a question. What is the difference between a pilgrim and a tourist? What is a pilgrimage and what is a trip? We are going to talk about that in the first class. Bauman's life was a pilgrimage. He was not a tourist in life. He tried to bring to the forefront his Jewish Polish identity. And this is something that will help us to rethink several aspects of the identity of our people. However, if we have courses, okay, so if we have courses that are going to discuss the importance of Zionism, Bauman, when he spent 2 years in Tel Aviv, he was a critic of a more Orthodox Zionism, and he brings several arguments because he is against any kind of what he calls absolute nationalism. I don't want to discuss whether he's right or wrong, okay? We're not in a tribunal, but we have to rethink the arguments that he uses about Zionism and not Zionism. He lived in Israel at the time, and I think that can bring us elements to open to broaden our scope about this. His arguments need to at least be studied. That's wonderful. And Rabbi Rubin also discussed an element when he was talking about the course. Yesterday, when we were talking, you said something interesting about our certainties, right? We are certain that safety in Israel was a fact, right? It was something that we believed in. And then suddenly what happened on October 7 showed us that everything was volatile and liquid. So how do we deal with these uncertainties? Yes, exactly. We had a lot of certainties, we're very self-assured, but a lot of the certainties that we had in, and even the identity of peoples out of Israel, people who were, many people who lived there are changed, and things became ephemeral from one day to another, and now we are tentatively trying to get out of this quicksand. Right now, Joseph, let's ask Joseph. No, let's first, before we go to Joseph, okay, so let's talk a little bit about Leslie first, and then we go to Joseph. All right, so let me talk about it. One of the main first things that I mentioned when I was talking about Leslie, well, when the October 7 happened, we asked ourselves, what's the name that we can give to Hamasnikim, to the people who perpetrated the October 7? Because one colleague in the United States, she said that they were saying like, oh, we don't know what to say. We have no words. And at first, that was what we were saying, right? All the time. And I proposed that we cannot call them animals because animals don't perpetrate Holocaust and they don't do what has been done on October 7. So if we say wild, or if we call them, but animals are wild. They are in the jungle. This is what's wild. Wild animals don't perpetrate pogroms. They don't massacre. They don't do this. They don't have the sophistication of evil, and they don't have the desire for evil. They do not celebrate evil. They're not happy with